Hi everyone. Uh, Welcome to this YouTube video. So I am making this video to share my experience of software engineering interviews that I've been giving over the last 1 year. So I've had given the interviews at a couple of top product-based companies and including some startups as well. So let's jump right into it. So first of all, I'll talk about what kind of interview rounds do usually we face. So this video will mostly be intended towards people who are software engineers with around 2 to 4 years of experience. Uh, and it can like some parts of it can be relevant to freshers or more senior folks, but this is what I'm assuming that the audience already knows a little bit about software engineering. So there are some rounds in the interview. For first of all, many companies have one online assessment round in which you get a link to a test which has around 3 to 4 questions. Sometimes it can have less questions also based on the difficulty level, and the interview can go around for like that test can go around for 1 hour to 1.5 hours, and it's usually an elimination kind of test. Like if you don't perform good enough in it, then you will not get an interview call, and it's not necessarily always you have to score 100%. So based on different companies, they have different cutoffs. Some may have 80%, 70% cutoff, some may even have 100% cutoff. Next, after that, usually you get a call from the HR for your first phone screen round, which is also an elimination round. And if you don't perform well in it, you will not get called for the next round of interview. And it is mostly a DSA round. Online assessment also, majority times it is some data structure algorithm questions. In phone screen also data structure algorithm questions. Once you clear that, then you go to the on-site rounds. On-site rounds can be both knockout rounds, or they can be like you will give all the on-site rounds and then a conclusive decision will be taken based on the feedback from all of them. Or it can be like if you fail one round, then your interview process stops. So there are usually 1 or 2 DSA rounds in the on-site rounds. Then there is one design round where the low-level design is there, and then there is a software architecture round for high-level design discussions. And then there is one hiring manager round for to discuss the leadership principles and behavioral questions. Hiring manager rounds sometimes also incorporate a high level like architectural discussions of your past projects and design decisions that you have made. So we'll go over one by one on each topic and how did I prepare for it, and what was my experience, and what are my tips, that some of the tips that I would like to share. So first of all, coming to the data structures and algorithm round, this is, I think, the most time-consuming topic to prepare. It definitely requires the most amount of effort, and it is least related to our day-to-day jobs that we like do as a software engineer. So, and it is quite luck-based, and but let's see, like first of all, let's go about what kind of what kind of interview rounds you can expect for this DSA round. So sometimes what can happen is in the whole DSA round there is only one question that the interviewer has in mind, and it will be a medium to hard question. And if you solve that question well, the interviewer, like you will get a good feedback. It may happen that the interviewer is not expecting the actual written solution, actual running solution. Sometimes they may be happy discussing the approach, or only the approach of the problem. How will you solve it? Or maybe write a pseudo code. So for example, in Google or LinkedIn, they don't really make you run the code. They are just happy with the pseudo code. But for companies like Uber, they expect a running solution. And so in Google, LinkedIn, and DShaw, usually they don't expect a running solution. As long as you are clearing the approach, they are fine. And then there are some there are some interviews where you will have a whole story in form of a question, and you will be expected to kind of come up with a approach on how will you solve it. Basically, you will have to also specify the kind of inputs that you will be taking in the function and the outputs. And then there will be some follow-up questions. For example, it could be like you are designing a way to keep track of friends, and uh, how will you find out the number of the distance between two friends, something like that. And then there can be some follow-up questions on that. Or sometimes what they have is they straight up two three medium questions they'll that make you solve back to back. Either they'll make you write the running solution, or only after discussing the approach they'll move to the next question. So it's good to ask the interviewers what kind of questions, what do they expect from that round. Do they have multiple questions, or do they have one question and a follow-up question? And do they expect a running solution, or do they expect a like just the approach? So it's good to clarify those things. I don't think anyone minds that. And apart from that, the general tips that you should, first of all, discuss the brute force solution and then try to optimize it, clearly communicate what are you thinking. A lot of good communication is required basically in this round, uh, because in this round, you have to demonstrate how do you explain a complicated problem to someone, how do you discuss different approaches to a same problem, how do you take hints, and after some hint is given to you, how well do you incorporate it, or how well do you understand each other's perspectives. So a lot of things get you can say judged in this now. Yeah. So what I was telling is there are multiple ways people prepare for this round. So there are two approaches mostly. One is that some people try to solve as many questions as they can. They try to solve new questions every day. They go on Leetcode and they solve a daily challenge, and they solve weekly challenges. So there's one approach that you solve new questions and try to cover as many questions as possible. So that is one approach that people go by. And the other approach is take a set of 150 top interview questions, or 200 top interview questions, and just follow that set. So that's what I did actually. So there are two sets, very famous sets, Neetcode 150 and Leetcode 150. So I personally have followed this Neetcode 150 set. In this, I've covered all the topics, and I've covered it multiple times to honestly, like, since DSA requires, you can say, a constant revision. Like after 6 7 months you kind of forget, and you have to basically brush up those concepts. So I have this fixed set, and I just revisit it whenever I feel like I need to revise DSA. And after that, whenever you have an interview lined up, you can go to Leetcode and check out those companies common questions. So for that, you will need a premium subscription. If you think you can benefit from it, it's a good to have thing. And I won't say it's necessary. So in this one, interesting thing is that you can kind of sort based on the last 3 months most frequent questions. So that's a good way to, like, you can just before an interview you can just brush up the concepts. After that, I'll so in the set that I was following, the there are a lot of dynamic programming and graphs questions. So I will just say that put some special attention to it if these topics are weak to you, because in top product based companies these do get asked. Like it's not uncommon to see a graph or a DP question in a like Google or Uber's interview. And I would highly recommend you to take notes whenever you are solving DSA, because since you will be going to, like, you will be needing to revise it again and again. And if you have some notes prepared, that will help you a lot in preparing. So, for example, I'll show you the notes that I have made. So you can say this is basically, I'll put this link in the description. So this is the repo that I have kind of prepared for, like when I was preparing for the interviews, and whatever notes I made, I made added in this repo. So you can say, for example, dynamic programming. Whenever I do a So whenever I do a problem, you can see there's a small explanation of the problem and some notes that I've written, like for example, how did I solve this problem, so that when I'm revisiting, I don't need to solve it fully, as long as I've written the approach of it. And for example, I've written some of the notes that whether this was uh, whether I was able to do it or not. And if I like the problem, I added some stars, like 1 star, that means it's a good problem. If there are multiple star, that means it's like lot of star means that it's a very important problem to me. So yeah, I added notes of this. And like for example, this binary search, whenever I basically whatever questions I do, I put a link to that question here. And some notes that I whatever I find important, I write it down. So that would be good. Like it has helped me a lot in quickly revising like data structure algorithms before any interview. You can refer to these notes if you want. Now, let me see. So I'm just reiterating that this is very luck based. Even after you have prepared 500 questions on Leetcode, it is possible that you get stuck in an interview, and that is completely fine. Sometimes companies do understand this, and they do a re-round of your interview, especially if it's a DSA. That has happened with me in 2 3 companies, in Uber as well. Like if your feedback of the interview is, you can say, dicey, or you can say lean yes, or or a weak no, or a weak yes, they might take a second chance with you. For that, they might do a re-round of the DSA, because companies do understand that DSA is quite luck based. Now moving on to the next type of interview that you will face is the low level design interview. So about low level design interview, that there are many formats that this interview can happen, and it it varies a lot company to company. I would also say that this is one of the easiest rounds to prepare, because this is the closest assessment that we have to our day-to-day work. If you are getting good work in your company, if you are like actively involved in like building projects, then you will not find a lot of challenges in this round. So there can be multiple ways this assessment can be made. There's one way that companies uh, ask LLD is they'd give you a take-home assignment, and these take-home assignments can be of 2 types. Either they'll give you an assignment to do over a weekend, then you'll have more time to it, and they'll expect a better project out of it. They would expect a complete end-to-end production-ready code uh, with APIs exposed, database designs, uh, test cases written. They might expect a small PPT also explaining the design, like high level design architecture and the class design architecture, and what were your assumptions and all. Or it can be a 2 3 hour window where you click on a link, you see the project, and within 3 hours you have to submit it. And then the expectation would be slightly low. You just need to do a working demoable code to them, and then you'll have an interview call with the with the interviewer, and they'll go over your code, and then they'll discuss what did you do. So this is one way of LLD interviews. Another way is that you will get on a call. In your interview, you will be expected to write a running solution to a problem. For example, they might ask you to design Twitter, and they might ask you to actually implement some of the features of Twitter, which can be testable in that interview. In that, usually you would be expected to write all the code in a single file, and in- uh, and the requirements will be very less. For example, while implementing Twitter, you might just be asked to design uh, post, tweet, follow, unfollow button, and publish newsfeed type of functions. Or sometimes what can happen is they might not be. very interested in the running solution per se, but they will might give you a, for example, same question, Twitter, design Twitter, but they might expect you to discuss what the database schema will you have, what kind of APIs will you expose, how will you structure your services, how will you structure your classes, what will be the entity classes you will create, and what kind of interfaces will you use, and how will you implement design patterns to it. It might just be high level, it might just be a discussion kind of thing, and you might draw some diagrams and that might be it for that interview. Or sometimes what I've seen is in low level design interviews, they might give you a algorithmic kind of question in which there's some design element, but it also involves fair bit of algorithms in it. If you see on Leetcode, there are multiple design questions. You will see, for example, LRU cache is one of the problems. So that can also be sometimes happen in a LLD question. So you can expect. So you have to basically clarify with the interviewer that what is he expecting? Is he expecting a running solution? Is he expecting a discussion on class level? And based on that, you have to go conduct the interview. And many sometimes what can happen is they might expect you to handle concurrency as well. And so it will be better if you can prepare how to handle multi-threading or concurrency in whatever language you are preparing for. So in companies like Rippling or Uber, they do expect you to know about how to handle multi-threading. Let me just see if I missed any points. Take home assignments, expect running code in a single file, expecting a DB schema mix between LLD and DSA. Okay. So be- so how do you prepare for this interview is what I've found is if you can prepare 5 6 questions by hand, like you actually go and implement those uh, projects, it will help you a lot. And don't think of it as doing it in a 1 hour. Go all out, like implement a full project, expose all the APIs, set up the database, write JUnit test cases, implement as many functionalities as you think you can. That will give you an idea of how to like basically actually design a whole project. And it might take you a whole day to just implement one project, and it is fine. Once you implement 2 3 projects, you will gain a lot of confidence, and I don't think you will need to prepare for this round again after that. While DSA you need to do multiple times for this round, one preparing once or twice is enough once you know how to basically design a project end to end. So there are a few questions that I think will we can help, and they might just be enough for the preparation. For example, you can you can write uh, the code for Book My Show, parking lot, design a chess game, design a snake and ladder game. I've written a few more. So personally, I've only tried Book My Show, parking lot, chess, and snake and ladder, and that have worked well for me so far. So there is this repo called Low Level Design Primer. In this, this has been a good resource for me. So you can see there are a lot of questions in this. Just let me go with the solutions directly. For example, there's this chess game, right? So you will see a lot of already designed solutions. So if you want, you can check this. So you can just pick a problem from this and see. And there's one this YouTube channel also I found it very useful in especially for Java. Like anyone who uses Java like me. So it has it has low level design playlist. It's a long playlist. You can pick whatever topics or whatever topic seems interesting to you. It also has Java like Spring Boot playlist, and basically this whole channel is like a gold mine of knowledge if you are a Java developer. So it helped me a lot in my interview preparation. And I would also suggest you to read up on solid design principles and design patterns. Sometimes in the interviews they might ask you about solid principles, like their full form, where are they used, and some of the design patterns, creational design pattern, behavioral design patterns, structural design patterns, what have you worked upon, where what are the pros and cons of it, and they might even ask you to write the code of it. For example, they might ask you to implement singleton design pattern in the language of your choice. So these can be some surprise questions that can go off track in your like while discussing an LLD question. So you should be prepared of it. uh, I think I've covered all the points. I will share the link to this deck in the YouTube description. Moving on to the next type of interviews called high level design. So this interview can also go in multiple ways. So one of the formats of this interview can be a discussion about one of your past projects. They might ask you to tell us some of the projects that you have worked upon or you're working upon, and they might start deep diving into that. Like, for example, why did you use a particular database? Why didn't you leverage another service? Or how did you deploy it? And basically you should be prepared for two or three projects, I would suggest, that you can explain well in an interview. Or what can happen in that in HLD interviews, they might give you a large system and they might ask you to design it. For example, design YouTube, design WhatsApp, and then once you start the discussion, they might, towards the end of the interview, they might start to drill down on one particular feature. uh, or they might give you a one particular feature from the beginning itself, and then they just go very deep into it, like exactly how will you design the schema, how will you handle latency, how will you handle scalability, what kind of estimates will you make, uh, how many for memory and all. For example, they might ask you to design online and offline indicator in a WhatsApp, or they might ask you to design the most popular hashtag pages of the Twitter. So how will you aggregate the data whenever a tweet is posted to find out what are the trending tweets? So these are the type of questions you can expect in an HLD interview. So this interview depends a lot on the interviewer, like what if the interviewer is very experienced, and if he is communicating well with you, how are you both communicating with each other? How are you making progress in that discussion? It depends a lot on interviewer. So if you, it's good that you develop a comfortable relationship with the interviewer during that 1 hour. And time management is very important in this interview. It is very easy to lose track of time and waste time in trivial things, and ultimately you are not able to come up with a complete design by the end of the interview. So it's better to practice with your friends or even alone. Just start explaining a design and try to finish it in 1 hour, and try to think of questions and all. And and also one suggestion from my end, that mistake that I did is I tried to cover up too many resources for this. So most of the resources have similar kind of problems, similar kind of topics. So you can just pick one resource and follow it completely. I personally prefer to read the book for this, for preparing for this. There are two books in this set. It's better if you can read both of them, but if you don't have much time, then I would suggest at least the volume one you should cover. It will cover everything that you would need in this interview, at least at this level. I'm not sure about the more senior levels. What kind of resources will it require? Or there are few good YouTube channels. For example, it's a very famous YouTube channel, a YouTuber named Gaurav Sen. It's good to follow. And then there's one, Jordan Has No Life. That's also a good channel for this. And then again, concepted coding as shown previously. This is also a good channel. And then there is one more, Arpit Bhayani. Uh, so I like these creators, but I personally prepared it from the book. Sometimes I see videos of them. Uh, I think, yeah, that's pretty much it about the HLD. Some of the experiences that I've had in HLD, like in Uber, I was asked to design WhatsApp, and in one of the companies, I was asked to design a task scheduler. Like I will get tasks and their priorities, and we need to build a scalable solution which will prioritize the tasks and also run them. So we'll have the executors and all, and how will we scale it? And in one of the interviews, I was asked to design a data aggregation service, kind of like this, displaying the most popular hashtags type of thing. That whenever a post is occurred, we need to find out what are the trending hashtags in that post. So hashtags, trending hashtags of last 5 minutes, of last 1 hour, of last one day, all over the world, or based on geographies also. So we need to find that. Uh, Yeah, and some of the HLD rounds that I had were about my past projects. Let us move to the next interview that you will face is the hiring manager round. So a few things that you need to keep in mind. What kind of questions that you can expect in a hiring manager round is definitely discussion about your past projects, about the design, the choices that you have made, uh, whether you know it. Basically, it's a way for hiring manager to evaluate whether whatever you have worked upon, how much involved you were, what kind of exposure did you have to the technology, what is your understanding to while implementing those projects. And there will also be behavioral questions to assess what kind of person you are, how do you handle conflicts, and some hypothetical scenarios also. One good thing about this round is that there are a fixed set of 50-20 questions that once you prepare them, I have never found anything outside of that set of questions. I have given a hiring manager round in, you can say, around 4 companies now, and every time the questions were limited to the set of those 50-20 questions. I'll share you. So this is the basically the question bank. I've shared it in my repo notes hiring manager. You'll find out this basically I've clubbed the similar type of questions together, and once you prepare these questions, yeah, that would mostly be it. You will not have to worry about anything else. Mm, uh, but the thing is, you need to structure those answers properly. You should use a star method. You can Google about it. It's the situation, tasks, action, and result. So there's a way to structure your answers. You should use that. You should read about company's core values and try to align your answers to the company's core value. That showcases that you have those values within you, and uh, in your behavior and in your decisions, you reflect those company's core values. That is a pretty important sign in pretty important you can say criteria in these rounds. That's called leadership principles. Apart from that, in your answer you should show your strengths, and you should your answer should be transparent and have ton of integrity. Basically, you should uh, it should feel like that the person is a good person and they're a kind person, and they know how to handle conflicts and tough situations calmly. Uh, and whatever, once you prepared those answers, I would suggest you to basically like use ChatGPT to structure those answers more properly and refine them. So that's mostly about hiring manager round. So the questions will be, for example, about customer focus and empathy. Can you show me a time when you showcase customer empathy in your role? Or you can say ownership and an example of something you created end to end. Tell me about a time when you helped people, or tell me about a time when you were asked to do something unethical. So these are some tricky questions. You should not take them lightly. And whatever similar type of, for example, questions in this category will have similar types of answers. So you can have basically one answer prepared for each of this, and you can tweak them little by little based on the questions. So it will. I have not written answers to them because it will be different for each individual based on their own experiences. So after that, there are some miscellaneous topics that you should prepare for. They can be asked in any of the rounds during the interview. They can, for example, when you are discussing a solution to a DSA problem using hash maps or tree sets, they might ask you to describe what kind of functions that you need to override in case you are implementing a tree set for a custom class. Things like that. Whenever you're discussing any database type of solution in a design problem, they might ask you some database concepts. For example, what is the difference between a clustered and a non-clustered index? How do we do normalizations? What are the column in a database? So these are the concepts, basically object-oriented programming concepts. You should know how to what are the interfaces, what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface, when do we use which, and then how do you basically write generic classes. You should know good you should have good understanding of that languages, library, functions, multi-threading concepts, as I've previously mentioned. You should also like practice some SQL queries. In some of the interviews I have had questions to write the queries, that is basically database schema is given to me and a requirement is given that we have to write the query to fetch this detail, and I have to write that SQL query. You should know a little bit about computer networking fundamentals also. And again, like all of these, basically whenever I came across some questions, I used ChatGPT to find the answers, or I found the answers on this YouTube channel. So this is the playlist called Java from Basics to Advanced. It covers everything. So there are many members only videos are there. So I took the membership temporarily when I was preparing. So there's a very good section for multi-threading from, you can say, from video number 29 to 38 is a very good. And for multi-threading, I forgot to mention previously in this LLD. So there's a very good Leetcode section for concurrency. So these are 9 questions, and once if you solve these questions, basically you will feel pretty confident working with concurrent systems and dealing with multi-threading. For example, this is a very famous Diners philosopher problem, that there are simultaneously 5 people trying to have this dinner, and each of them needs 2 forks, but there are only 5 forks available. So how can we basically do that? And yeah, there are some concepts called semaphores and locking and all. So if you know that just one thing that you need to study up and prepare. Apart from that, for SQL queries, again, I would suggest Leetcode. So if you do these 50 questions, you will be basically confident about SQL queries. I did not do lot of them because I was not facing a lot of these questions. But in D show, I had 2 interviews, and both of the interviews they asked me to write SQL queries. And in some of the online assessments that I've given, there were questions about SQL queries. So it's good that if you can prepare. Yeah, that's mostly it about this section. So a little bit brief about my experiences in some of the company interviews. So in DE Shaw, I gave 2 interviews, and the format in DE Shaw was that in the same interview they ask everything. In one interview, they ask two DSA questions. They asked me to write SQL queries. They asked me about an LLD design problem, snake and ladder. They asked me to design snake and ladders game. They asked me about very deep database core concepts. So it was a pretty heavy interview. They did not expect me to write the working solution of the DSA problem. As soon as I was able to figure out the approach, they went ahead. So that was one of the most challenging interviews I've had. So in the same interview, they asked basically everything, and all the other interviews are knockout interviews. And in Google, it's purely DSA for at least till SD2 level. Uh, and Google likes to ask pretty hard lead code problems from range of topics. And in Uber, the pattern was basically similar to this. Like there was an online assignment, then there was a screening round, and there were two DSA rounds, LLD, HLD, and then hiring manager round. It was one of the most extensive interview processes that I went with, and uh, all of the interviews were quite a deep dive. I don't remember the questions, and I don't think I can share also like this. It's confidential. So the DSA problems were medium to like I would say hard only. And in HLD, I was asked to design a chat application, and in LLD, I think yeah. So in Uber's LLD round, they expect you to write a working solution in LLD. So in the same file, you have to write the code and you have to give a working solution then and there. Hiring manager round was as I described before. And in Salesforce, a similar pattern was there. DSA, LLD, hiring manager, all those rounds were there. And into it, the LLD round was a take-home assignment over the weekend. I had prepared a PPT. It has all the high-level design diagram, low-level diagrams, and my design choices, were my assumptions, and I had given a full demo of that application. Also, published the test coverage report. So yeah, I tried to be as extensive as possible. So that's mostly it in LinkedIn. Yeah, standard interview process as I described before. In some of the other companies that I've not mentioned here, so the interviews can go beyond a normal format. They can ask like that, as I mentioned in the miscellaneous section. They can ask a lot of miscellaneous questions in an interview. So now moving on to discuss a little bit about how I like applied. So here I am a little bit privileged since I work in a good company already, and I'm from a good college, so I get the privilege of having networks in a lot of good companies. So I get referrals. I don't get see a lot of challenge in getting referrals. So that was my primary way of applying in all the companies. But many times it happens that take a referral and still you don't get a reply. So you can directly apply also. And InstaHire have also helped me a lot. You should be active on InstaHire, like even if just open it and just like check it out. If you do not interested, just click on not interested, and if you are interested, you apply. So I got I got multiple interview calls from InstaHire actually. And also, if you know someone in who works in LinkedIn, you can get a 6 month LinkedIn premium for free. That also helped in like asking for referrals. Like I can quickly text anyone from my college alumni and ask for referrals. So that's how I applied. I don't know how much of a help it would be to you, but if you are if you also have this privilege like me, then definitely you can leverage this. That's all I had actually. Thank you so much. I hope it helped.